Hello and welcome to the big pilot project Kermit. It's another horrible winter's day, but the rain stopped for a few minutes, so I scampered out here. We're here today to get the bulkhead, which is here, and a fuel tank, which is somewhere in there. You'll notice on the bulkhead, even though it's been out here for months now with zero protection, not a trace of rust. Hot dip galvanizing is just amazing. First glance, the fuel tank doesn't look too bad, but we'll get both of these up to the workshop and have a proper look at them on the bench. I'll get the bulkhead up here in a moment, but first I'm going to sort out these prop shafts. These two are the prop shafts that came off of Kermit. Now you might have seen this one hanging up in the, I was going to say spray booth, polytunnel. This has got one end of it which is perfect, really nice. No play in there, easy to move. And the sliding joint there slides, and it's got no play in it either. But this end does that, but not the other way. So it's the universal joint here is just seized up. I've got a replacement one, and I'll sort that out in a moment. So that's sortable. This one, no, the front prop shaft, not so much. This again has got one good end and one not very good end, but the sliding joint here doesn't slide. I've tried greasing it, when I put grease in there it just comes out this end, doesn't come up this way. I've tried penetrating fluid, I've tried hammering this, either way, nothing at all. Now I could heat this up and I could get it apart, but I think if it's locked that solid, it means it's corroded inside, and even if I pull it apart and clean it up, it's not going to have the sliding fit that it should have. It's just there'll be play in there. So yeah, this is a write-off. Over here is the rest of my prop shaft collection. So we've got a rear prop shaft, which I don't need, and then three, I don't know why I've got three front prop shafts and one rear, anyway. Just how it is. Now this one here, sliding joint slides nicely, but it's got play in it, so that's no good. This one here, it slides. There's the merest hint of play in there. This joint slides. No play at all. Right, this is a contender. This UJ though, it's knackered. You can hear there's play in there. Oh, and this one's this one's completely solid. So if I can replace these UJs at both ends, this one is serviceable because that sliding joint is really nice. The upshot is then I'm going to try and sort out these two. So this is the first step. You can probably hardly see that. In there is a circlip. I've got a couple of little drifts and a small chisel. And if I can get this moving, then I can get the circlip pliers on it. I think what I need is a skinny screwdriver. Oh, there we go. Got to come in there. One. Can't get by it. It's going to be it. That's two. What I've got to do is push it one way and take the cap off, push it the other way, and then this will come out. See there, that's moving now. There it is, that's off one end. Let's see, it feels like it's moving. Right, the new UJ, I've taken the caps off of one side. So that's going to go in position. The cap's got to go on there and the cap's got to go on there. That's better. Just going to use the vice. Get in here. That's better. So the thing is, the vice is much more likely to push it in square than it doesn't have the flex that that clamp does. There we go. We'll do 19 in there. There we go. Good. Perfect. Might notice I've got some nice shiny nuts and bolts here as well. The prop shaft bolts were one of those things I've never actually bought before. I've always just salvaged the old ones, but you can see the state of all of these. Yeah. Okay. Everything. You can see there what I've done, just cut through that part of the UJ. Haven't touched this or this. You see in there, and the needle rollers in there. Completely dry. There we go. There we go. Let's see what the other one's up to. There it is. Cripes. that was a lot of effort. There we are. Perfect freedom of movement, zero play in the system. Excellent. Well, with that finally done, Now I can clear the bench and I'll get the bulkhead up here and have a look at it. What I'm going to do is fettle this, so there's areas like here, just like on the chassis, where I've put in a repair, the weld seams have gathered more zinc. Basically, this is what happened, and so it's just popped out and made it visible again. So I shall sand these bits down very carefully. So from this angle you can see something I'm going to have to address. This is these are the hinges for the vent flaps. You can see here, this one is open, this one is bunged up, and so is the next one along. From this angle, you might just be able to make out, if I get out the light, there's a ripple. And this is one of the consequences of putting it through the hot dip galvanizing. But really I can live with that. The bonnet is going to come down and cover most of that anyway. A very small price to pay for the protection that's offered. Here's all the paint I've just bought. This is all from Paintman Paints. They haven't given me a discount or a sponsorship or anything like that. They did give me a little card which says, share your project on social media for a chance to win a car care kit. So I could always do that, I suppose. So like I say, I paid full whack, just over 400 quid for all this lot. I was a bit miffed to actually then pay extra for delivery, but there we go. It was, however, I must say, very well packaged. Yes, it was very nicely secured for transport, so I'm grateful for that. Hopefully the paint's as good as everyone says it is. I'm sure it will be. So we've got here primer, undercoat and top coat. 2 top coats actually, but we'll get to that. First though, I've got to do the mortanting. While that's drip drying, might as well have a look at this. It's got something in there. Fuel or water, or probably a mix of both. I'll have to drain that out. My current plan is to do the same as I did with the other Land Rover and clean out the inside of this and then use phosphoric acid to neutralise any surface rust that's in here, which is usually on the seams at the bottom. The reason I'm messing about with the fuel tank at this point is because once the bulkhead is in place and I can fit the brake system then, all the brake lines, it occurs to me that's also a good time to fit the fuel system, all the fuel lines. So let's have some full. There we go. Look at the state of that. Look at that. It's amazing it was running. That's proper clogged. Flakes of, God knows what that is, mud, leaves, who knows. Got a trunk here, should do that. I'm going to take this out there and sluice out the inside, jet wash the outside, maybe jet wash the inside too. By the time all that's done, the bulkhead should be ready for its T-wash. Obviously this is going to have to be bone dry before painting, so I'm going to leave it here for a few hours to drip dry, and then I'll hang it upside down somewhere, probably in the workshop. Now what I'd like to do is to hang it up, but I'm not sure the polytunnel can take it. In fact, I'm pretty sure it can't. Alright, let's mix some paint. There's going to be 3 types of paint going on. We've got the primer. It's not an etched primer, I've already etched it with the mordant. This is just a high build primer, the undercoat, top coat. For the undercoat, so between the primer and the undercoat, I'll put on a load of this, which is seam sealer. I got my cheapo eBay gun, which should be fine for doing the primer. I've got a posh gun for doing the top coat. Well, some of it went in. The following day, it's all dried off nicely. Undercoat is next. I'm going to try, I've come up with a new idea for hanging it up, because if I can get it hanging, I can do both sides, it'll all be a lot better. If I put the weight of the bulkhead on that, and then try and suspend it, that might work. Yes, that's much better. So you're probably wondering how many coats I'm going to do. I'm wondering that as well. It all depends how opaque the paint is. So we'll just see how it goes on. But at the moment I'm planning one coat all the way round with it upside down, and I'll flip it the right way up, coat, and that might do us for the undercoat. And then with the top coat, it'll be a coat upside down again all the way around, and then 2 coats the right way up. That's my current plan, but yeah, subject to change. It is cold today. It might be too cold. We'll find out. If I spray this paint on and it just slides straight off, it's too cold. I fired out a compressor. While the air's building up, I can explain to you my choice of top coat. So originally, of course, Kermit was going to be green. Well, that kind of goes with the name, doesn't it? But also, I've always painted all my vehicles green. Most of them over the years, well, most of them, probably about half of my vehicles have been military vehicles. So I've just stuck with usually olive drab, if not deep bronze green, which is what Kermit's going to be. Then, around about this time last year, it all kicked off in Ukraine, and suddenly, to be honest, the whole appeal of military vehicles to me had been part of, it seemed like something that was in the past. It seemed like a quaint piece of history. And there it was, all these old military vehicles actually in action. And ever since then, it's just been a continual parade of human suffering across TV screens. And it kind of did, to be honest, put me off painting something that was associated with that. I know that's daft, but that's just how it was. So now I started thinking about other colours it could be, and I thought of blue, but I didn't really like any of the blues that I came across. I thought of red, but then I thought that's just going to look like a fire truck. I thought of yellow, and then I thought that's going to look like construction. I almost went with orange. I found a picture of restored Series 2, I think it was, and it was bright orange with black bits, sort of black highlights on the wheels and the grille and things. It looked brilliant. Then I discovered that orange and black are like the victory colours for the Russian army. So, like, right, forget that. Then I found another picture of a nicely restored one, and it had been done as a Camel Trophy truck. And for those of you that don't know, the Camel Trophy was a sort of famous Land Rover event in the 80s, I'd say it was its heyday. And it'd be kind of like a rally sort of affair, but going through jungles and across deserts and things. And all those trucks were painted in what they called sand glow. And I was thinking, that looks quite nice actually, but then I thought, sand glow, that was a bit poncy. But then I discovered that, true to form, with the British car industry being as tight as they are, sand glow is not an original colour. It's actually just British Leyland beige. So once I discovered that sand glow is actually in reality 1970s British Leyland beige, I thought, oh, it's got to be that. I don't know how that looks on camera, but it looks great to me. So this is going to be the top coat. So we're not on the top coat just yet. So today we'll be using the undercoat, which I think is fairly similar. Yes, it's similar enough to confuse the two actually. So there we go, that's my choice of colour. It's sand glow, or British Leyland beige. No doubt that's going to horrify some people, but that's my choice and I'm sticking with it. The other top coat that I've got here is NATO black, so satin black. So my intention is to do the main part of the bodywork in this beige. Let's call it a beige because that's what it is. And then bits like the roof and the wheels and other bits like that will be satin black. That's current plan anyway. We'll see what it looks like. If it all looks horrible, I'll just repaint it, but I'm pretty confident this will look great actually. So there. So with just one coat on there, it's a bit translucent really, but that's to be expected because I've thinned it down so much. I've had to thin it right down because of the temperature, so well, we'll see what it looks like when it dries. Yeah, because it's so thin, you can't put it on, can't put much on before it'll run, and also the coldness of the metal makes it tend to run as well. Like I say, we're just on the cusp of not being able to paint. But it's forecast to get colder, which is why I'm doing it today. So in between coats of paint yesterday, I wire brushed this whole tank. I am going to have to blast it. It's just to get into all the bits I couldn't reach with the wire brush, and I need to key the surface as well for painting. It's all a bit it's a bit burnished at the moment. Also, this bit here I'm not very happy about. This reinforcing panel for the mounting bracket is, well, you can see it's got loads of holes in it. I'll make a new one of those, but also the bit that it's reinforcing here, this has also got a rotten bit, so I'll cut that out as well. Just one of those things that no one's ever going to see it, but it's bugging me now, so I'll sort that out. That's good, there's enough material there just to use these as templates, so that will save some time. The rest of this I can now blast. So to give my crappy little blaster any chance at all, I'm going to use this great big receiver as an air reservoir. My big blaster is out of action because the compressors need some attention. That fuel tank won't fit in the blasting cabinet, of course, so I'm going to try and use this thing. Fire up the air first. Complete waste of time. Absolutely useless. I'm going to thin down what's in the gun and do one more coat just to give it a more consistent covering, and then that'll do us for today. So this is still undercoat, remember. It's not top coat yet. So they're spot on, but yeah, just a bit of a curve. That's straightened that out pretty well actually. A little bit of ripple going on there. Fucking not. It's shit. Good. There we go, old and new. It was cold last night. Got down to -4, and I came out here this morning and there was a layer of frost over the whole of the bulkhead, and I came back at midday and it was still there. It's done very little damage though. I'll try and show you. Yeah, I think from this angle you can just about make out there's some blotches of what look like condensation, but it's not, it's damage to the surface. So I'm going to carry on doing the top coat. I've had to wait until, well, it's gone 2 o'clock now, so it's going to be, I'm not sure I'm going to get all 3 coats on before it starts getting dark, but I'm going to try. It's forecast to be cold again tonight, so what I might do is put a fan heater in here on a very low setting. Bear in mind I'm off grid, so that this fan heater will be running off batteries, so it's not something I do lightly. It might help though just to circulate the air and stop the condensation settling. Keep the frost off. So the plan is 1 coat this way up, 2 coats the other way up. I don't know if it's the gun or the paint, but that was actually a lot more pleasant to paint that session than the doing the undercoating, which bodes well. So if you've ever done any spray painting, or if you've ever even seen anybody spray painting, you might be surprised I didn't sand it down before tackling that. And the reason is there would have been no point. I didn't sand the zinc, and it's a textured surface, that zinc, so there's no point trying to sand it away from the undercoat. Might as well just get on and apply all the colour. This is the bulkhead, and very little of it really counts as exterior bodywork, if you see what I mean. It's only these bits here that point out, and that strip there. Anyway, it'll all be fine. Got here the bulkhead brackets that I what did I do with these? Blasted, galvanised, painted, done the works. Fit these, got the original bolts which I've cleaned up. Probably have to, yeah, the holes in the chassis are a bit clogged. There are 3 of these bolts to go in. I'm only going to put in 2 for now, and I'm not going to tighten them up either, because I think we'll need, being a Land Rover, there's slots rather than holes to allow for adjustment. It's not quite dry enough, but I'm going to flip it anyway. So we need to get on, otherwise it's going to be dark and cold. Bear in mind, when I show you close-ups, the colour is going to be all wrong because we're under a green canopy. I'm actually really looking forward to getting that in the sunlight and see what it looks like. I think it's going to be a great colour. I might be alone in that opinion, but bring back beige. It's dry enough for another coat, which is just as well because it's almost sundown. 1000 watts. And I can monitor this now, so I've got a little temperature sender. I can put this one inside. I should point out as well that generally speaking, a fan heater in a spray booth is a terrible idea. Reason being that if you've got a fan heater somewhere where you do lots of painting, it's just going to blow around the overspray, the dust, and that will settle down on your newly finished surfaces and make it look horrible. Not a problem in here. The best thing to have is infrared lamps, because an infrared lamp will heat the object, doesn't heat the air. So it's brilliant for doing painting, especially painting metal things. So I used to paint a lot of cast iron radiators, and I'd have what was it, 2 1500 watt lamps, one on each side of the radiator, pointing upwards to warm them up and to bake off the paint, and that way I could carry on working all through the winter. That's 2 lamps per radiator. There'll sometimes be several radiators in there. I don't have any of that kit anymore. I've just got a knackered old fan heater. So you can see behind me the sun's just going down at the moment. I'm going to leave that for probably an hour, I reckon. Oh, that feels quite good actually. Yeah. So we can just stop a frost forming on that, it'll all be okay. Right, one last check. It's gone 8 o'clock now. -5 here, -2 in there, so we're maintaining a 3-degree difference. No frost on the bulkhead. This is splendid. Morning is here. Let's see how it survived. We got away with it. So I left the heater on its minimum setting, and it did kick in every now and again in the night, and just kept it reasonable in here. I think the colour is great. Again, it probably looks weird on camera because we're in a we're in a green room. But when I fit this in a day or two. So this bit first. It's quite an improvement. That's all the repair work done on the fuel tank. I do need to do a bit more prep though before I paint it. I'm going to use this stuff. So you can just see there it is straight phosphoric acid. 45%. I'm going to try using it as it is. Stuff that goes in the tank is about. There's a bit of water in there at the moment, so that'll dilute that down a bit. But on the surface here, probably as it is there will be sufficient. But yeah, let's sound it first. So I'm just going to give it a quick sound, doing random orbit sounder just to key it up. Remember, there is some water in there, so I think this will be an appropriate amount. I'd normally use this half and half with water, but I know that because it's so cold it will take ages to react if I do that. Just let that react and go find something else to do. Had about 24 hours now, and I must say I'm quite impressed at how the acid's done. With the temperatures being quite low, I was expecting to do another application, but we're there. See a little bit of brown there, a little bit of brown there, but yeah, I say over 90% of it has been converted. All I'm going to do is wipe off any excess, and then we can get on with painting it. This is the Zinger Cold Galv in a fairly thinned down state. I did contemplate seam sealing these joins, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to try and get a load of this in there instead. I'll let that dry and go and get the bulkhead. So despite the low temperatures, we got away with it. It's properly painted and the paint's gone off. It's movable now. I've put on some brand new gloves so that I can lift it without getting greasy paw prints on it. I've cleaned the bench in the workshop and I'm going to put it on there. I've got a couple of things to do to it before sticking it on the chassis. I can lift it there, I think. Just right, we're off. I'll see you in the workshop. Well, I've got it in here. It's not heavy, it's just incredibly awkward shape. The reason I got it in here, twofold. One, I want to drill out these bits. So these two are completely blocked, these two are partially blocked. They're supposed to have these pins go in them for the vent flaps. I also want to glue on the rubber seals because I think it'd be much easier to do with the bulkhead lying down like this. The issue I have here is that these little bits are too close to the rest of the bulkhead to get even. This is my smallest drill and it's not going to get in there. Well, I mean, it'll get in there, but it's not going straight. I considered getting one of those flexible shaft drill thingies, but even if I did that, I think the chuck of the flexible shaft would still be too fat to get in here. I came up with this instead. So this is my solution, this thing here, which if it works, would be quite nifty. So it looks like a normal bit driver, but here's its trick. It can offset by 20 degrees. Now, of course, there's no chuck there. Here's what I've got instead. I've got a whole load of drills with hex ends. This type of drill bit is occasionally useful for putting in an impact driver just to make a pilot hole. It doesn't sit very well in there. It wibbles about a bit, which is it's not great for precision drilling. But for this job, I think it would be perfect. Obviously, I'm just trying to get out the excess zinc that's inside here. 4.9mm on the pin. So I could get a 5mm one of these. There. And then that offsets there, and I should be able to hold it just right. More mighty drill this time. That worked rather well. Bit unimpressed I had to sharpen a brand new drill bit, but there we go. So I had all my rubbery stuff in a box. This is it here. Mostly door seals, but also a collection of bulkhead vent seals. Now this is one of the original ones off of Kermit, and this is a brand new, well, it's not brand new, this is quite an old but unused one. So this is a brick part replacement, and it's horrible. I bought this for the other Land Rover and ended up not using it. I don't know why, presumably I bought a pair, but this is the only one I can find. Anyway, I'm not going to use it, so it doesn't really matter. So this is the Brit part replacement. This is what you tend to get now as a bulkhead seal. The difference between this one and this one is that this is, it's almost solid. I mean, it's flexible in this regard, but it's very dense rubber. This is rubber, rather than foam. In contrast, these ones that came off of Kermit have got a very different shape to them. So this is the side that faces upwards, and you can see it's got a really thin curled over lip. This is what contacts the vent flap. So I think this has got a much better chance of sealing than this. This is so solid, and there's no give in there, so I'm not going to use that. So out of this collection, I'm just going to pick the best two. It's using this stuff, which is flexible roof and gutter sealant, and is itself butyl based, same as the seals. Yeah. I'll use this to go in there. This is the Zinger MIO top coat again. So this fitting is located on the other side, but that's not going in there without a fight. I shall have to have a ponder on that. Well, the good news is that the bulkhead fitment is nowhere near as bad as I thought it was. I came out here last night and had a good old fiddle about with it. I took it off the bottom brackets and put it on these ones, and I just realised how much adjustment there is. There's loads in all directions, as you'd expect with with Land Rover stuff. Yeah. I'm not going to mess with it too much now, because it's occurred to me that the crucial thing is going to be things like the door gaps. And to sort out the door gaps, not only do I need the door on there, but I also need the whole of the rear body. And we're quite a way off that yet. But this is on here well enough for me to mount everything onto the bulkhead, like the brake system, the steering, and all that kind of stuff. That's just about going to do it for this instalment. What's coming up next will be the, well, I'm going to put a coat of paint on the fuel tank and then fit it. And once the fuel tank's in there, that's like the last obstacle that I've got to get around with the exhaust. So then I can go ahead and fit the exhaust. Now you can buy a complete bespoke exhaust system. This is not that. One of those is like 600 quid or so, and that's just in mild steel. That's not even the stainless version. So what I've done instead, I've just bought a generic 300 TDI exhaust system off of eBay, which cost about, I think it's £100 delivered. None of this is going to fit as it is. Even this downpipe is going to need some work on it. This bit here is going to need to be cut off and offset a tad so that the system misses the engine mount. So it's all going to need some work, But this should be all the materials that I need to make my own bespoke exhaust system for obviously a fraction of the cost. This is all mild steel. I mean, once I've done this, I'll effectively have a pattern, and if I wanted to, I could then replicate it in stainless. But mild steel is much easier to work with, so that's going to be my starting point. Also coming up next will be fitting all the brake lines, because now the bulkhead's in place, I can do that. And I might as well put in the fuel lines once I've got the fuel tank in. So all that excitement in the next one. I'll see you for that. Cheers for now.